Welcome back to Go. During the break, I was chatting with Kate, who's the operations manager and a historian, and she was informing me about the history, keeping me up with the Dunsmuirs. So tell me, what happened after Robert Dunsmuir passed away?
Drama is basically what happened. So the room we're standing in right now kind of represents some of this drama. This was Mrs. Dunsmuir's sitting room. When Robert passed away, he had always promised to his two sons, who had been really helping him run the business for most of their lives, that they would inherit his fortune, his companies, his business holdings. But that turned out not to be true. It actually was his wife who inherited all of it. Joan seems to have been a very, very intelligent woman, and she didn't want to hand it over to her two sons, so she kept running this enormous business empire. Talk about defying women's gender roles, right? In the 19th century, women didn't do this sort of thing. And it was in this room that she would have signed documents, she would have done hirings and firings, all sorts of business deals. Now, eventually, her sons are so keen to get their hands on the family fortune and the business that they start to sue their mother. And she ends up countersuing at least her son James. Some of her daughters get involved, and the whole family is split down the middle. By the end of her life, Joan hadn't spoken with James, who was the premier of the province, and when she died, the lieutenant governor at the time, in about 8 years. There was a lot of debate, in fact, amongst Victoria media of whether he would even attend his mother's funeral. He did. He showed up at the last minute, dressed in his vice-regal uniform, huge plumed hat, beautiful embroidered outfit, sits in the front row at the funeral, and starts to sob. It was in the front page of all of the newspapers. It was talked about everywhere. So clearly, in the end,
There were some regrets.
there were some regrets.
Wow, and it just goes to show that money and all the possessions in the world can't buy you happiness.
Correct.
Which leads us to our next story with Dan Kahn.